So I'm making this Can I Be Vulnerable for other people who are out there who might be going through some of the same things, who have thought some of these things that I'm thinking, but they just don't know how to express them. So here I am to be that strength for you. First time I went to therapy, I was younger. Parents, they were going through a few things, and my mother thought that I should go ahead and talk to somebody because she realized with me, I didn't really talk too much. I absorbed everything, but I didn't really express what was going on. Wasn't like an emotional person, like I wasn't a crier. I wasn't somebody who lashed out to fight. So it took me to speak with a therapist. I was younger. Did what it did. I mean, I was too young to really understand what was going on. Yeah.
And you don't have to answer this, but what were some of the things that your parents were going through that you felt like were affecting you negatively?
Well, I mean, just a lot of dysfunction and whatnot in the house. Pops is there, but he's not there.
Right.
And just same old, just dysfunction that you see in the African-American household, which kind of turns into arguments, things that are now, viewed as a norm, but in reality it's not a norm, especially with somebody who's a developing mind. So moms wanted to try to take care of that. So that was the first time. Second time I went to therapy was just actually relationship counseling or whatnot, trying to make sure, things can go ahead and work into place. And then the last time was just kind of to do an overview to just talk about me as I've grown into my mid-30s and whatnot and where I am in life. So, yeah. How has healing changed me? Healing has changed me in a sense where I've learned how to let go of a few things. So, and I think that's kind of going back to being younger. So just being black. Growing up in LA, like I'm not gonna hit you with the same scenario that everybody knows of, but I mean, also just being a male, like, I was fortunate enough to have my father in my life growing up, but he was more of a hard individual. So therefore, like, I wasn't allowed to kind of be soft or whatnot. So I remember I just remember one time, like something happened, and I think I was probably like in 5th grade, like I would start crying, and I was telling him like, just didn't know how to express myself. And he looked at me like, what's the point of you crying? Like, crying isn't really gonna get you anywhere. So from that point, it just stuck in my head that, what's the point of crying? Like, it's not gonna heal, it's not gonna do anything. But as far as how has healing helped me, going back to that, I didn't really have anybody to talk to about stuff when I was going through it. So in a sense, I think I grew to be very apathetic versus sympathetic and empathetic. So with the apathy, it was just like, I view things, it is what it is. Like, I don't need to be healed because I'm just viewing things for what it's worth. When in reality, I realized like when I'm manifesting, it's just a whole bunch of either hatred or not being a hater, but I'm saying hatred for situations and whatnot. So I never fully like healed. So learning how to heal was just learning how to express myself a little bit more, how to talk to people. And then ultimately just learning that at the end of the day, just love is something that comes from within, but I have to go ahead and put that same love out if I'm looking to get it back. One thing that scares me is becoming content and just accepting it for what it is. Like knowing, I tapped out, I'm done. And that can be across the board, whether it's personal development, a relationship, I think those are the main two, personal development and a relationship. Like just becoming content with that and just feeling like, I'm tapped out versus knowing, versus realizing this is my maximum potential. Fear failing. Now, most people say you're supposed to fail, you're supposed to learn from it, but it's a difference. Like, I don't have a safety cushion. So if I fail, I might be homeless. That's it. So, and I mean, I've seen people, well, I've been homeless and whatnot. That's cool, but at the end of the day, for me, I don't want to be there. So I fear failing. So therefore, I think when I make moves, it's made me much more strategic and calculated when I'm doing things. So whether somebody else might see my potential with something, that's great. Like, I love my friends for that, my family for going ahead and acknowledging those strengths. But however, if I fail, like, I don't have that much room for failure. Like, I have a very prestigious master's degree, and I'm not saying it to boast or brag. I'm saying it, and because me being in the position I am, I need to go ahead and market myself no matter what. So if I'm marketing myself, went ahead, did a master's degree in leadership and management, concentration in organizational development, created a solid career for myself for what I'm doing right now. But, the flip side to that coin is if I want to go ahead and do some things, you still got them student loans coming in. I still have rent coming in. I still have life that I want to live. So therefore, I have to be very strategic on what it is that I do. So it's me, nobody else. So, yeah. My weakness is moving at other people's speed. And when I say that, I have a speed that I like to move in. I'm very comfortable with myself, and I know how hard I push myself. And the thing is, if I have somebody who I'm around that I'm close to, or in a case that I happen to love or whatnot, like a significant other, then I want them to move just as fast as I'm moving. And I'm expecting that they can do that because I'm gonna be there as their strength. So even though they're not keeping up with me on my speed, I'm still there to kind of continually push them. But if they're kind of resenting and going back, now I realize that I'm moving at their speed. So I'm slowing my growth in order to ensuring that they grow. So my weakness is, maybe that's like the empathetic side that has come to me a little bit, where I really care for people who are close to me and around me, and I want to see them grow equally the same. So, you know, again, just being around people, I look at things and I don't look at people for what they are. I look at people for what it is that they can do. So if I see something that you can do, yeah, exactly. I mean, one of the saddest gifts in life is wasted talent. So if you have a waste of talent and you have somebody around you, like, again, like just me not growing up in a sense of somebody really like pushing me. And I mean, they push me to the best of their ability, but if you see something in somebody else that you know you could have saw in yourself a little earlier, you want that person to go ahead and live out a few things. And I mean, those experiences come from maybe me being around individuals who are great or people who have pushed me. So therefore, when you see it in somebody else, you want to push.
Yeah.
And the weakness is that if somebody's not ready to go ahead and move forward with that, I mean,
you take on their speed, and that
exactly. So
slows you down.
Yeah, so my weakness is actually, which is kind of weird. I mean, going back to being an individual who can be very apathetic, the empathetic side, when it is there with somebody who's present, it can really hurt me.
Right.
The last time I felt childhood joy as an adult is each and every time I get on an airplane and I'm flying off to go somewhere different.
Nice.
Because at the end of the day, it's something, I feel like it can easily become a routine. So with me, travel quite often, like just 35 years old, just spent my 35th birthday in my 35th country out in Japan.
Nice.
So I've taken up this traveling thing. Like, I really enjoy it, just being around different cultures and seeing things that I grew up watching on TV. I'm seeing it in person and living it. So it's a childhood joy to see something that I've never experienced, and then actually to go back and tell people about it as well too, and tell them like, hey, you know, you can do this as well too, and provide a different perspective. But to just see things that are totally different. I mean, even from like, I mean, I'm smiling even if I go, like, I remember the first time I went to Europe and I just saw even the big rigs out there and the cars are smaller. I'm in my 20s, but I'm still looking like, this is crazy. It's something totally different. So just seeing something that's different is just, it brings childhood joy to me. Like, all this right here, like, I feel like, you know, growing up in LA, living in the IE for a little bit, living out in Vegas, spend some time out in New York, going all these places, it's a bubble. I mean, it's kind of all the same thing, different people or whatnot. And then you just get older, so you want to start seeing some new things. So the traveling, I feel like that'll forever provide me that childhood joy. Being a man, I would say, okay, just going back again, just handling your responsibilities, but being open to learn. And realizing that at the end of the day, you're not always going to be the smartest person in the room. You're not always going to be the strongest person in the room, but just taking from people, learning from people, and then using those gifts and those tools and helping others hone in on their skills as well too. So I think just being a man is just being responsible and accepting that responsibility, and realize at the end of the day, you have some type of social responsibility, you have some type of emotional responsibility. If somebody is there always depending upon you, especially if you have a significant other in your life, if you have children, godparents and all that, just acknowledging that and then stepping up to the plate.
Complete this sentence. Healing is?
Healing is being able to look at yourself in the mirror and realize what you've done wrong, acknowledging that, talking to people that you might have done wrong, telling them that you apologize for what it is that you've done, and being okay with someone not being able to take your apology.
Growth is?
Growth is daily. Growth is something that is continuous. Just like a person who practices medicine, they're forever learning. They have even these courses in medicine. It's called CME, which is called Continuing Medical Education. So when you sign on to become a physician, you're a lifelong learner. So if you get involved with growth, you're a lifelong learner. You can grow from the second, you're growing from the second you're alive to the second that you die.
I like that. All right, so those are the questions, man, and there's some gems in there. So this is your opportunity to open up about whatever aspect you so choose, man. But like I said, I'm gonna be right there with you. So the floor is yours. Pause for sound.
All right.
All right, so boom, this is, like I said, your opportunity to open up and be vulnerable, and I'm gonna be right here with you, so it's conversation.
So opening up, being vulnerable, I think coming here today, I really didn't know what to expect. Like I told one of my friends, told her that I was gonna come up here and do this with you, and I was kind of going over some of the things. She was telling me, like, you need to just write out a bullet list and a checklist, this and that, and go from here. So I was stressing it. Even this morning when I went to go get a haircut, I was thinking, like, damn, like, what can I go ahead and say? What can I talk about?
Right.
But then again, I just felt like, at the end of the day, like, life isn't about just, I mean, even though life is strategic with things, but problems as they arise, the problems aren't strategic. So when you come here and you talk about a few things, like, it's okay to just go ahead and just open up. At one point I was in a long-term relationship, and I just think about how things went on both ends, where me as well as my significant other at that time, we just weren't really doing right by each other.
Right.
And instead of just one person, or going back to that whole being a man and being responsible type thing, always just went on the hope that things will become better.
Right.
All the while, it was just becoming much more toxic.
Right.
And, you know, instead of just stepping away from it, I just continually tried to make things work. And I think, like, going back with that kind of goes back in my childhood days. When you've been around so much dysfunction, you believe that dysfunction is how you actually function. So when you realize that it's not, when you get around some of your friends, some of their families, and everybody sitting around enjoying themselves, and they're talking, and they like, oh, so you guys aren't just doing this when we're around each other, you know, like this is how they actually are.
Or if they do have problems, they talk the problems
They talk the problems out, exactly. So when I realized that, you know, I wasn't becoming the best communicator that I could be, I realized that I was doing my relationship a disservice, because I'm harboring a lot. And even though this individual, we're not communicating as much as we should have been, I know what I'm going through, but I just figure if they're not communicating, I'm not communicating. So everything became kind of tick for tack.
Right.
And with that tick for tack, it just became a lot more, toxic, because at the end of the day, we both started resenting each other. Not being able to identify the problem, and not being able to come to a conclusion with it, but just living day on and day on, was much more harmful than just not nipping something right in the bud.
Right.
So this is the thing with me, losing a friend. So, I mean, I lost one of my best friends back in 2001. Known him since time we were in second grade all the way till he was 1 year older than me, died in a car accident. I mean, and this is somebody I talk to every single day.
Right.
So losing a friend to me is a little bit different than maybe with some people. So I don't go through friends or whatnot. Like, if I open up to somebody, it takes a little bit of time, obviously, but at the end of the day, I always feel like this. If you're my friend, you're my boy, my homegirl, somebody who I really rock with, if you don't know everything about me that can ruin me, then you're not my friend. That's it. That's not your real friend. Right. And that's how I feel with people. But, you know, people kind of bounce from friend to friend to friend. But I can honestly say, like, all my closest friends or whatnot, they know things about me that, you know, I share with them, and they trust me with things and whatnot too. So when you have somebody who's close to you and you lose them like that, it kind of hurts, because it's like, you know, at the end of the day, it's almost like that person died in a sense, because you can't really go back, and you can't come back from certain things. And even when you do, even things that were said and done, again, people do things out of anger, but when people do things out of, you know, hurt, maliciousness, and, you know, and it's just something that has been talked about over and over again, and you still continuously do that, then, you know, you have to let them go. And I just realized, again, it's just, unfortunately, it just becomes a part of life. But does it hurt? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I were to say it didn't hurt, and when I say hurt, just in the fact that there are people out there like that, like, you know, they infiltrate, and once they infiltrate, then they use your weaknesses to go ahead for personal gain, to build. So when that kind of happens, man, you know, so when I say at the end of the day, like, it hurts, it just hurts to know that there are people out there like that. And if I were to say it didn't hurt, then I'd be more of a sociopath. I'd be lying to you by just saying, like, you know what, at the end of the day, nothing bothers me, nothing hurts me. When in reality, Message to the people. At the end of the day, the counseling things, the talking about your issues, your problems, there's somebody out there that's going through probably the same thing you're going through, if not worse. So talking about it, becoming vulnerable, and just exposing it, and letting people see that you're not perfect. You go through the same things that other people go through. It's a good thing. So just go ahead, talk a little bit, because at the end of the day, there's somebody out there to listen. And yeah, that's it.